Great. And we'll give it the other minute. I don't know. I was just telling Tanner, because this is an unusual time of day when we're not usually here. It's not Monday morning at 10 a.m. and we have clients from all over the world. I don't know if this is going to end up being a great time when we get more people than ever, or this might be it. So either way, it'll be perfect. And I will do my best to be James and get it in the Slack channel and uploaded and all of that. Just a quick FYI, yeah, I don't know exactly when he'll be back at work. He is at the memorial service today. And his aunt is really still not doing well. She is finally conscious. She was unconscious for 16 hours after he. So, man, be grateful in every moment, right? All right, so it is 1 o'clock. Let me let Carl in real quick and let's get rolling 1 Eastern. All right, let me give Carl a second to get in here. And Velma, can I also give you co-host just so you can let people in? Thank you, so I don't have to watch that. Thanks, Velma. If you could just watch the participants, appreciate it. All right, hi, Carl, good to have you. All right, so welcome. Let's get rolling. Thanks for meeting with us on a different date and time. And I'm super excited because I have Tanner Smith here with me today. He'll introduce himself in a moment. Some of you know, I've mentioned his name a lot, that Tanner's been on my team, I think, for over a year now. And he has really been the genius behind TL Webinar, Promising Profits, the Modern Coaching Method. He not only has helped with webinars, he's created all the sales pages, the landing pages, and he is also responsible for my Facebook ads, which I know some of you are seeing because I see your comments on the Modern Coaching Method. And yes, you would be my exact target audience to receive those ads. So I've asked him to come and talk about the Atomic Webinar and more. So this is going to be one where you're going to want to pay close attention, no multitasking, take notes. And I'm going to turn it over to Tanner, and I'm actually going to mute myself and be here as a listener as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry. Yeah, I'm excited to be here with you guys. Give you a little bit of background about myself. So how did I learn all this weird, nerdy stuff, right? Like how to run webinars and run ads and all that stuff. So my dad actually owned a seminar company for 20 plus years, and he ran all of these different offers. He partnered with a bunch of different brands and big offers. And I actually saw behind the scenes and how they got all of the butts in the seats is what they call all the people that register for the seminars, how they got people to remarket to those seminars. And back as a kid, I remember it was all direct mail. And as I got older and more interested in how my dad ran his business, they transitioned over to this new thing called, digital marketing that was kind of on the cusp of, the forefront of this new technology. So I was an early adopter as Facebook started running ads and saw, all of their different funnels that they would make, and they had different web developers behind the scenes that were actually hard coding everything. This was before they had, Unbounce or ClickFunnels or other different types of landing pages. So really my experience and passion for offers and for programs and for coaching runs really deep. And so I'm really excited to be here with you guys because I know that you guys can really benefit from this. So really, I kind of want to talk a little bit about my system, some of the things that we're doing for Terry, some of the results that we've got, but then also most importantly, why I've created this system and why I think it's the only way to sell and scale a product or a program. So, if you guys have any questions, please write them down. I'm going to do a big Q&A session at the end, get this very collaborative. Have you guys feel free to ask me any questions as well. So without further ado, I prepared a couple different slides for you guys and a little bit of a presentation to kind of help go through this. So let me pull this up here. So let me go back to, hang on a second. Let me share my screen here. Okay, good. So, the most common question that people ask me is, okay, listen, I've got this awesome program, got this awesome product, this offer. Now, how do I sell it? That's the $1 million question that everybody has. And you guys working with Terry are already way ahead of the curve compared to all of the other people that I come in contact with and other clients that I work with. And that's because Terry is an incredible marketer. She's incredible at what she does. And she's already drilled it pretty hard into your guys' minds about how to be tactical about your offer, how to be very strategic, and how to create an avatar, and also how to implement like reverse marketing and different guerrilla marketing tactics. So I'm not going to talk about any of those things today, but I do want to touch on that. These are some of this, like I call them the 6 pillars that are more kind of a mindset than anything else on what helps coaches really create products and programs, sell them, and then scale them and take them to the next level. So first things first, they're tactical about their offer. They know who their avatar is. They are very dialed into that. They are trying to speak to one person. They're not trying to do everything at once. Selling your product and program is all about momentum. And if you're spreading yourself too thin, right, and if you try to sell to everyone, you're selling to no one. So, that comes down to your unique core positioning statement, getting clarity on the price and your offering, and trying to be niche specific. So you guys already know all about that. So check. The next thing that you guys really need is understanding that you constantly need to be building your following. And what I mean by that is, if you're not constantly building up thought leadership in your space on your given subject, then other people are going to be doing that. There's a constant battle for market share in the hearts and minds of your ideal prospects. And so by leveraging a lot of the strategies that Terry has already talked to you about, that you guys are already well aware of, right? That's how you can continue to make sure that you're on the forefront of your expertise, that you're going to be that name and that person that comes to mind when people are looking for a solution. So you guys are already well aware of this. Now, the next 4 buckets, right, are where I want to focus on today and where I think that there's maybe a lot of gaps for you guys to improve on. So third thing is, in order to be really successful and sell and scale a product or program, you have to be totally data driven. So you can't be emotional. You can't focus on, what you think is going to do the best or how you feel something is coming across. You got to be willing to get in front of the camera, create content, put stuff out there, and then let the data tell you what's working and what's not. A lot of clients will say, hey, should I be focused on creating more quality content or more quantity content? Or should I be focused, how many ads should we run here? I say, we don't know if it's going to be quality or quantity until we run it out, until we get it out there, until we push it out there. So it's best just to put it all out there and see what sticks. Now, in line with this too is understanding your KPIs. So what do I mean by KPIs? Key performance indicators. As you're starting to try to get data and seeing what's working, what's not working, in order to be able to improve, right, you have to be able to measure. And without creating measurable, measurable stats inside of your funnel or inside of your ad campaign or inside of your metrics, whatever you're doing, then there's no way for you to improve it because you don't know where you're at. So that's kind of this point here that we're going to talk about today. Another thing is that people that really know how to sell and scale their products and services and programs, they get paid to create. They never create anything without first getting paid to do so. And this was kind of maybe counterintuitive to a lot of what you guys have heard before, but this is probably the biggest friction point that I see with coaches and course creators and programs. They spend so long, months on end, sometimes years, creating a product or a program, trying to make it absolutely perfect without knowing if anyone's even going to buy it. So what you want to do is create the skeleton, that framework first, go to market with that, create all of the different messaging and the ads around it, get people to buy. And then once they buy and actually hand over the credit card, now you're getting paid to go on the back end and create that product and that service. So it's not anything that's dishonest. You can even be totally forward facing with it and say, listen, I'm still putting the final touches on it, the finishing touches on this product, this program. But this is what is going to be included. This is what is going to, these are the modules. These are the topics that we're going to cover. This is what we're going to accomplish as we, get into this program. But what this is doing you is this is allowing you to move quickly. Those that can pivot and can adapt and get data back from their audience and their prospect fast is going to win that race. So that's a huge thing. Now, another thing too is don't guess when you can test. So a lot of people try to rush and create an evergreen webinar or create an automated webinar, which is great. And that's definitely where you want to go. That is the ideal, because that's how you can really create scale for yourself and free up your time. But you never want to take something and run it evergreen until you actually know what works and what doesn't. So going back once again to, not being emotional, focusing on the data, unless your webinar is completely aligning with everything that you need to be profitable on your product, then you don't want to run evergreen. So, a good example of this was the Modern Coaching Method webinar that we just did with Terry. We didn't have that product or that program fully put together, right? Terry had been working behind the scenes on a lot of that stuff, but we had come up with a really good product that would be very valuable. We did a live webinar, right? And then after we got people to purchase that webinar, then Terry went on the back end and created it and actually delivered that product and service to those that purchased that program. So you can see that I'm not just, hypothetically saying this stuff. You can actually see how this is come to fruition with a lot of Terry's products. And, we're doing another live webinar here on the 14th of July. That's going to be a little bit of an iteration of that last one. So we're continuing to tweak and to test that so that eventually down the road, in a couple of months, we will have a perfected automated webinar that's dialed in for her audience and for that offer that she can run 24/7. And then the last thing here that I feel like is a huge, touch point for people is you have to embrace media buying. You have to master it. Now, obviously, Terry, right, hires me to do her media buying. You can always hire someone to do it for you. But I would still say that it would be best if Terry learned how to run her own ads. She just doesn't have the time. But it's great to know exactly what you're doing so that you can at least hire somebody and be dangerous enough to handle that conversation. Media buying is your friend. Facebook, as big of a pain in the butt as it is, which it's a big pain, it really is your friend, because as you learn to run ads and you can really optimize and watch those KPIs and perfect that process, that is how you're going to be able to unlock scale on your offer. Because now, instead of focusing on a bunch of organic strategies, right, you can simultaneously, with a click of a button and a little bit of money behind it, get in front of thousands and thousands of people, and it completely scales your reach and opportunity. So this is kind of like that mindset why I created this program, because I feel like there's a big gap with where people are and what they really need to do in order to get their product and program off of the ground and creating scale and really getting results in their life. So essentially what the Atomic program is it's your own digital machine. You can think of this little machine right here, a little conveyor belt, as something that you can put something into it and get something out. So you can think of the inputs here as money to run the ads, ad content that you're going to use to actually have as the ads and other things that we can use to promote, and your webinar, that we're going to continue to tweak and refine and perfect. Those things are the main inputs that this digital machine consists of. And then on the flip side, right, the outputs, as you build your own digital machine, hopefully you get more money, right? You can put $1 in and get $3 out or $4 out. You're going to get webinar registrations. So simultaneously, you're going to be growing your list and creating and growing your community. And then also you can create greater impact because you're going to be getting in front of a very wide audience, a ton of people that are your ideal prospect and avatar. So that's kind of something you can think about this as well as your own digital machine. Now, going back once again to kind of this atomic model, this flywheel, there's really 6 steps in this process, right? The foundation for success kind of goes into understanding that offer and the avatar. We're not going to cover that. And, then we get into selling, which is kind of creating that webinar. Today, we're not going to focus on the webinar specifics. That's really a different conversation, something that takes a lot more time. And I didn't feel it'd be best to kind of cram all of that into one thing. But then this third thing with traffic and then tweaking revisions, this 3 and 4 is really what we're focusing on today, because you guys already have webinars, you guys already have offers, you're already kind of tweaking and doing things. So I think this is going to really help you guys put the rubber to the road a little bit, so to speak. And then obviously scaling is how to unlock that, how to get more results, how to going back to the previous slide, really getting in front of more people and making sure that everything is aligned. And then obviously course fulfillment and upsell. So then you actually go to create the course and the program, and you create other offers and services. And it's kind of just this circle that repeats over and over again. You can tell Terry's always coming up with new new services, new offers, new programs. And it's because she's following this flywheel, and we're continuing to test and implement. So let's get into it. So let's talk about running Facebook ads. What is that process like? It's pretty complex, right? If you guys have ever been back into Facebook Business Manager, it might seem a little bit overwhelming. So I tried to create as simple of a model as possible. And just to make sure that we're on the same page here, when I say funnel, I'm not referring to funnels that are bait and switchy. I don't think that aligns well with your product, with your brand, and it's people can see past it. In a way, I have an analogy that's kind of like a digital clipboard. You've all been to the mall, right? There's little kiosks, people selling phones or blenders or whatever it is at Costco. They kind of have these as well. And you're walking by doing your thing, and people kind of come up and say, "Hey, man, you want one of these? Check this out. Check out this new product." And to me, I've always been very turned off to that. I always feel like if I were interested, I would go up to you and ask the question. But now you've kind of invaded my little space right here, right? This is my bubble. You just invaded it. So in a way, I feel like funnels and ads that invade that space and kind of are a digital clipboard are a big turnoff. And so this whole process here is going to make sure that you're running ads and you're building your audience in a way that's very natural, very organic, very authentic, and you're not being too pushy or salesy. So what we want to do over here on the left is we have different target metrics or KPIs that we are going to be trying to optimize for and watch at each part of the process. We have the call to action on the ads that you guys should be running and driving towards. And then we have different campaign objective types. This is important because when you run ads in Facebook, you have different types of campaign objectives, and Facebook is going to deliver those ads specifically and in line with those different objectives. So the first thing that you guys need to do in order to make sure you're not being a digital clipboard salesman, you're building your audience and you're trying to refine and get more people into your funnel, is you first need to create a little bit of a lead magnet or squeeze page here. Now, this needs to be something that's very valuable, that people consider easy to implement, and something that solves a pain point or problem for your ideal prospect or avatar. So if you guys were my ideal avatar, for example, and you're coaches and you're trying to sell your product or service or program, the lead magnet might be a free training. It might be a checklist. It might be a guide. It might be something that you guys really want to know the answer to, and you've been searching and actively looking for a solution. Now, the ads that we're going to be showing these people are going to be video ads. And the reason why they need to be video ads is because over here on this brand awareness and video view campaign objective types, right, we're trying to optimize for through plays, for video views, and for CPMs. So to back up a little bit more, right, a through play is 15 seconds or your video in its entirety, whichever comes first. And that's kind of a really good gauge on how well your video is hooking your audience, right? The CPM stands for cost per mil or cost per 1,000 impressions. So we want to make sure that that CPM objective is getting in front of as many people as possible, and that's low. If that's really high and it's costing us, maybe $10 to $20 per CPM, that means that ad and that video is considered low quality, and Facebook isn't distributing that as well as they could to our ideal audience. So we want that CPM to be between, $3 and $8 on average for a brand awareness campaign. Something to keep in mind, though, is that can vary at different times of the year. So, for example, around Black Friday, Cyber Monday, around the holidays, that CPM can get higher just because there's more advertisers on the platform, and so the costs will go up. And then the next thing that we want to do is we want to optimize for video view percentage. So to give you an example of what this is looking like, if we know that we want to sell our product or our program or service, call it, let's just use the modern coaching method as an example here, because you guys are aware of that and know what that involves. So we're trying to get coaches to join the modern coaching method. We know that that's the end goal. We don't want to be pushy, though, and just push it on them. Instead, what we can do is Terry can create some video ads that talk about one specific problem that people might have. So maybe it's, not understanding their business model, right? Maybe it's them not knowing how to get in front of their ideal prospect. Maybe it's them not knowing how to do a specific part of the the problem that they have that is creating friction, and that we know that the modern coaching method is going to solve for them. So what we're doing is we're launching those ads in front of these individuals as brand awareness and video view campaigns. And then the call to action is driving to a landing page where they can then get access to a training. Maybe it's a webinar, maybe it's an ebook or downloadable guide that they can then download and opt in. Now, keep in mind here that the opt-ins and the emails is not the goal. It's not the objective. So if you don't get any emails in this process, that's perfectly fine. Because what we want to use is the video view percentage and the through plays. Because what we're going to do is take this one step further at the next point in the funnel and actually retarget the individuals that were most interested in our content and engage with our content, and then eventually drive them to a webinar. So it's pretty cool. Inside of Facebook, what you can do is you can actually create video view percentage audiences. So you can take all of these ads that you ran here top of funnel with this brand awareness and video view campaign. And what you can do is say, Facebook, I want you to put everyone who watched 50% or more of my videos into a little bucket, right? And I want to show those people this next ad that I'm creating, inviting them to come to my webinar. And it's great because whether or not they put in their email, we know that that person is interested, because no one is going to trade their time and watch a video unless something caught their attention, unless they aligned with something that was there and they don't feel that something resonated with them. So that's how we kind of start going with these webinar registrations, and we take it one step further. If you just go straight for the webinar registration without doing this top piece, and I get that all the time, well, hey man, why can't I just run webinar registration ads? You can, but what's going to happen is you're going to be spending a lot of money trying to get people interested. I would rather spend less money having Facebook do the work for me. We can optimize and get a lot better cost per 1,000 impressions. So the ad's going to be cheaper on average. We're going to find the people that are most interested. And then we can take those people and put a webinar registration ad in front of them that we know they're going to be interested in and have a higher likelihood of clicking and registering for. So the webinar registration ads can be a combination of static images and videos. I'm sure you've all seen Terry's stuff that she's running right now. Those are all webinar registration ads. And we're trying to optimize here for the actual webinar registrations and the cost per click. So we're going to see what the cost per click is on that ad, and then what the average webinar registration is. Now, I have target metrics that I like to kind of just hesitantly launch with, but know that this is totally subject to change depending on your offer, your audience, and how much you're selling it for. Typically, we want to see webinar registrations between $6 and $20. I know that's a little bit of a wide gap, but we want to be in that range because that's typically what we need to get good volume, get a decent sized audience there to test without spending thousands and thousands of dollars on ads, and hopefully be able to get a couple of conversions to where we can understand all of our metrics. Now, one thing that I also do, I take it one step further. After we get webinar registrations, I send webinar reminder emails. We do send emails as well, but we also send webinar reminder ads. And these are simply just traffic campaigns. No real call to action here, just something that keeps it top of mind. You don't have to spend a ton of money, maybe $5, $10 a day on these after you get people to register, just so you're making sure that they're, hey, I got that webinar. I want to make sure I'm there. And you're providing ongoing content and value on these ads to make them excited and build up some momentum for them to show up. The metric that we want to optimize for on this type of a campaign is frequency and cost per click. Frequency, once again, is the average number of times that your ad is impressed on somebody in your audience. And an impression is just any type of any time the ad is shown. So you want your frequency to be high here because you want people to be seeing these ads and have these ads be showing up on their feed so that they're reminded to show up. Then we have the webinar, right? The webinar goes live, people show up, you run through that webinar, and hopefully you do an atomic webinar. But afterwards you sell, you drive to a landing page, people are purchasing. And then what we can do here is everyone that attended the webinar but hasn't purchased yet, we can create ads that are retargeting offers to them. So we can simply say, hey, you showed up for this webinar, this is what the offer is. The cart closes at this time and day. Here's your chance to sign up. And it's kind of just a reminder to them and helps to kind of push some people over the fence. The majority of your sales are going to come as a result of the webinar. Don't get me wrong in that regard, but this offer retargeting campaign can be something that you guys can throw into the mix to get a little bit better conversions and help people, get over the edge. What I found is that a lot of people are just busy, and it's not that they're not interested in your program. It's not that they wouldn't buy. It's just that maybe it wasn't the right timing. Maybe it wasn't the right time. Maybe the price point didn't align with something. They had something else going on in their life. And so this offer retargeting is a really good way for them to just be, reminded that I need to get back into that program. I want to do this. Let's go. Let's take action. Now, the goal with this, right? And the goal when you're running your webinars and doing live webinars first, before you run evergreen webinars, is to understand every single metric here in this funnel. So you want to know how much a through play is costing on your brand awareness. You want to know how many people are watching 50% or more of your video, right? You want to know what is the average cost per webinar registration? What's the average cost per link click that I'm getting? If it's really, really high, maybe I need to look at something and tweak some of the ads and try to get that cost down. And then ultimately, right, what is my cost per purchase, otherwise known as a customer acquisition cost or a CAC? What is that cost? And if you don't understand these things, if you don't know these things, then they can never be measured. They can never be optimized. So this is really key and crucial that you guys understand this. So, this kind of is an extension of what I was just saying here. In this digital machine, right, you want to get these inputs. You want to be able to get outputs and understand what that is. So the ones that, once again, I focus on are the average cost per click on the campaign, the average cost per registration. The attendance rate on the webinar is another huge one, because let's say, for example, you're getting really good webinar registrations, but hardly anyone is showing up. That might be a factor of a couple of different things, right? Maybe your webinar is at a bad day and time. Maybe your audience and your prospects are just not available at that time. Maybe you need to mix that up. Maybe it's too far out. Maybe you did a push that was, way too far out, and you need to maybe close the gap between when you promote and when you go live. If it's also really low, maybe you need to tighten up your email drip sequence. Maybe you need to introduce text message reminders, letting people know that, hey, I'm going live now, jump on. And also maybe you need to do some things differently to get those webinar reminder campaign ads going, and you can do some things that are a little bit more engaging so people are showing up. Another great KPI here is the average time on your webinar. What's the average amount of time that people are spending on the webinar? You want to see in your metrics on your webinar a fat long tail that kind of goes like this. You usually have about 20 to 30% of people that will drop off in the first 5 to 10 minutes, but then you should see a pretty good long tail and then a little bit of a drop off at the end, right? So if, for example, you're seeing that there's a huge, more than normal or more than usual drop off in the beginning of your webinar, maybe you're not getting straight to the point fast enough. Maybe you're not being engaging enough. Maybe you need to have more energy, create more clarity on what what the webinar is, who it's for, and why they need to stay. You can also hook to the end. Hey, if you stay until the end of this webinar, I'm going to give you a free bonus or a free guide. You'll notice that we did that on Terry's last webinar with the Modern Coaching Method, and it worked great. We had a lot of people stay until the end because they wanted that gift. So also, if there's a point in that webinar where the attendance rate is dropping off significantly, maybe that point that you're talking about or that you're teaching is just not aligning with your audience. So once again, there's some tweaking and refining that you just need to go in and look at. And then ultimately, right, what is the customer acquisition cost? If I'm selling a program for $5,000, right, I need to be able to know at the end of the day, it's costing me $1,275 to acquire, right? Or $2,242 to acquire over that campaign. Now, the reason why that's important is because a lot of people are like, hey, I want to make $1 million, or I want to make $100,000 on this program. Well, that's great. I would love to help you get there, but what's your customer acquisition cost? And then if they say, well, I don't know, then I say, then I have no idea how we're going to get you there. But if you say, hey, it cost me $1,200 to sell my $5,000 program using this digital business, this digital machine, then I can say, well, if you want to sell 20 people, that we're going to basically then have to reverse engineer it and say that's going to be 20 times whatever your customer acquisition cost is. And that's what you should be setting aside for your marketing budget. Does that make sense? Now, there's also going to be a lot of other things too. You've got organic sales, you've got Facebook Lives, you've got affiliate programs, you've got a lot of different things that you can do to promote. And I consider all of that gravy. I call it cheddar. If it comes in, great, right? That's just gravy. You didn't pay for it. That's amazing. However, the problem with that is it's not scalable and it's really tough to predict. And we want to create something that's scalable, easy to prove, easy to predict. So once again, we can create a business, a machine where we put $1 in, we get $3 out, or whatever that is with your product. So once again, what I've done here on this slide and what I wanted to just reiterate to you guys is reverse engineering your goals. And this is once again why it's so crucial, this atomic program process, because if you don't have all of these completely aligned and understandable, then you're not going to be able to really launch a successful evergreen webinar, which is maybe where some of you guys are at right now. So if you're thinking to yourself, okay, I've been running my evergreen webinar now for a couple of months and I'm getting people coming in kind of hit or miss, I don't really know what to do. My recommendation to you would be to do a couple of live webinars using the strategies and tactics that we talked about today. And then once you understand and can reverse engineer that whole process, that is when you are ready to then launch confidently with your evergreen and automated webinar, knowing that, hey, I know if I spend $100, I'm going to get 10 people to register. I know that for everyone that registers, I'm going to get a 30% attendance rate. I know that I'm going to close 30% of the people that show up on my webinar, right? That's just a hypothetical scenario, but that way you're not now guessing. You've tested and you can confidently go and spend money and acquire customers consistently. So really, that's what I had for you guys and what I want to talk to you about today. I know there's a lot that we're talking about covering there, and there's a lot more to that atomic webinar process, atomic courses process, but that's essentially where I feel like you guys can get the most value out of. And so now we're going to just open up to questions and have you guys be able to ask me whatever you want to do.
Great. So let's use hand raise. Regina, I see you first. Let me mute you.
Thanks. Wow, Tana, that was awesome and a lot of information. As you were going through some of it, I jotted down a couple questions. Regarding video ads, you were talking about video ads. So is that a Facebook video ad you're talking about?
Yeah, and
Okay,
you can do other
YouTube.
platforms. Yeah,
Okay.
you can do YouTube, for example. I recommend always getting started and proving your funnel first on Facebook. And the reason why is YouTube, it's a little bit harder to find your audience, I found, and the costs are actually a little bit higher. So if you can get your funnel and your process going on Facebook, then you can introduce YouTube as simply another way to create retargeting and other opportunities. But it's tough when you introduce more platforms than one. You either got to go all in with YouTube or all in with Facebook. I choose to go all in with Facebook once again because it's cheaper. Well, like if you have a marketing budget you're trying to establish this program with and get sales, if you spread it too thin, you're creating two different branches of optimization, and it gets a little complicated. And I find that it's just really hard for people to get it off of the ground. So yeah, this is Facebook ad videos.
Okay, so to the Facebook ad video question. Number one, how long should a Facebook ad video be, and do they cost more than a standard Facebook ad?
So they don't cost more than a standard Facebook ad. It really comes down to the objective that you're going for. So the way that Facebook actually creates costs and generates those costs for you is it's all auction based. So if, for example, you're running a brand awareness ad, they're going to take that ad and put it into an auction in your audience. And essentially what you're going to do is the more people that are watching that video and the longer that they're watching it, the more that you're getting clicks on that, they're going to divide your total cost by those metrics. So you're going to spend the exact same amount, on a daily basis. If your daily campaign is $10, $20, $30, whatever it is, and then you're just simply going to divide your metrics by that total cost. And that's how expensive that ad is. So the more effective the ad is, the higher quality it is, the more clicks that you're getting, your costs are obviously going to be lower, but you're still spending the same amount. if that makes sense. Now, to answer your first question, how long should they be? I can't give you an exact answer. It really comes down to testing and going off of the data. I like to test a bunch of different types of videos. We can do quick little, animation videos. Most of Terry's videos are about 60 to 90 seconds. And that's because we're going after people that, are a little bit more experienced. They have a little bit more context. And, we need that time to kind of hook them, explain our case, and kind of teach them something of value. But once again, if you're getting results with something that's 5 minutes long, keep running it. I've seen ads that are 22 minutes long and they crush. I've seen ads that are 10 seconds long and they do amazing as well. It just comes down to testing and seeing what's working for your audience.
Okay, thank you. I'm good.
Maybe
Awesome.
Over to you, Velma. Give me 1 second here. Okay, I'll mute.
My question is around how as things like Apple's impact on being able to connect to people, they're keeping their stuff more private. How does that impact this? Because I think it's going to make it a little bit harder to find our target audience if they can hide behind the Apple.
Yeah, that's a great question. So she's referring to the Apple iOS 14 updates that essentially is restricting the tracking that we can use offline and on other devices. So it really has affected certain things, certain tracking metrics. For example, when you're creating custom audiences and you're saying, hey, I want to know how many site traffic visitors clicked on this button, and I want to basically take all of those individuals and retarget them. That's a little bit harder because if people opt out when they get that iOS 14 notification, then we can't actually track and target them. But the reason why my system, once again, works and why I stress this on that one slide talking about the funnel is the brand awareness campaigns and the video view campaigns are absolutely key. They're critical because if you're putting video content out in an ad form, that's providing high value, people are going to watch it, even though they may not know that they're interested. If it speaks to them and it resonates to them, right, we're going to be able to then see that that person watched 50% of that video or that person watched 95% of that video. So that we kind of have to reverse engineer our audience a little bit more than we used to. But I actually think it's a really good thing because it's forcing advertisers and course creators to be more genuine and provide more value. And at the end of the day, the people that provide more value, the most value, are going to win because they're getting more people to watch the videos and they then can confidently retarget those individuals moving forward. So that's why that funnel process is key, why you can't just run webinar registration ads on a whim to people that have never seen you before. You have to create value. And I call it intent-based branding. You have to, get your name out in front of people with true intent, providing goodwill, teaching them something of value. And naturally, what they're going to say is, wow, that's really cool. I want to see more of her ads. And we can then retarget those individuals and get them on a webinar.
So if they've already looked at the ad, we can retarget them even if they've got that Apple thing in place?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Velma. All right, who else? I'm sure there's more. There's Ken. Good, you can unmute.
Hi, thanks, Tanner. This is like amazing information. For for someone who I feel like there's a lot of Greek in there for me. But what the questions that I wanted to ask so for some, like obviously with regards to the pricing, when you mentioned, for instance, $5 a day or $10 a day, or this pricing, so the individual actually decides how much they want to spend per day, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And realistically, like when you're doing, so obviously when you're just starting off the funnel and you're testing how things are working, like the duration of that period of how long it takes to actually sort of like fine tune it or start to really like get the results on average, what are you looking at usually? Is it 2 weeks? Is it a month? Is it 2 months? Does it vary so much? I know it's a bit of a vague question, but I'm just to get an idea.
Yeah, great question. So it really just depends on a couple different things, and it starts with your ad budget. So the more money that you're willing to spend, the faster that you can get data back from Facebook, right? So if we're spending $10 a day on our initial brand awareness campaign to try to find that audience, well, if we go over the course of a month, right, that would be $300 that we spent across the course of a month trying to find audiences and trying to get people to watch our videos. Now, if we were to spend $50 a day, right, we would get the data back in 10 days or what, 8 days or 7 days that it would have taken us in a month. So ad budget is the first thing. The second thing is how dialed in you really are and can speak to your audience. So sometimes people are like, I don't necessarily know what's going to work and what's not going to work. If you know what's going to work well, and you can kind of already kind of make a best educated decision that, like, I know this ad is going to be super valuable, then that can help to get more views and find those people faster. So that's what I would say in terms of the actual building the audience side. Now, in terms of the tweaking for the webinar and all of the retargeting things, typically I see that we have to do about 3 to 4 live webinars before we can get true full funnel data and metrics back and say, hey, listen, like, take the guesswork out of it completely. We've done these 4 live webinars. We've ran all of these brand awareness campaigns. We've ran all of these webinar web registration campaigns. We got all of these people on a webinar. We got all of these people to purchase. At that point, it is where you can really say, I now know this system. I can make really educated decisions and tweaking, and I know where the gaps are. So, I have different clients that we do live launches every single week. They know every Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern, they're doing a live webinar, and we just turn those ads back on. So in the matter of a month to month and a half, they have 4 live webinars done, and then they're ready to turn it automated and evergreen. Some people takes a little bit longer, especially if you want to do like 2 weeks in between your webinars, right? Or, maybe 3 weeks in between your webinars. Things just create different variants in that. But it really just totally depends on how much money you want to spend, how well you already know your audience, if that offer has already been validated before, if it's something that you've ran and have sold consistently, and then how often you're going to do those webinars.
Okay, so without a doubt, probably the number one thing is to have an ad budget ready and decide on that, basically.
Exactly. And the thing with the ad budget is this, right? You need to know what you're looking for. People get scared. They're like, whoa, I just spent $20 a day, or I spent $100 a day. But when you know what to look for and you can make educated tweaks and decisions based off of the data that you're collecting, it really doesn't become scary anymore. It becomes your best friend. You're now essentially shortcutting the learning curve and the learning process on gathering data, getting your audience built, and finding what's resonating with them and not. So that's really where, kind of what I was saying earlier comes into play, is learning how to use media buying as your best friend and your asset, because it allows you to scale like crazy.
And last thing, but would you suggest that I learn that, or it's better to have the people that actually know that already?
I suggest that you learn it for 2 different reasons. Once you learn it, you can either A, do it yourself, or B, you can hire somebody and know if they're doing a good job or not. It's always good to get a second pair of eyes on something, right? So that's what I would say is most critical, is that even if you don't want to run your own ads, you at least know, hey, we need the cost per click on this webinar registration campaign to be, $1.50. We need these webinar registrations to be $7. I know that that's what it needs to be for us to make money on my offer. So let's get that down. How can we tweak? So you're having at least a very high level conversation with those that are running your ads. So yeah, I would say you need to learn it. And here's the kicker. It's not as hard as you think. It can seem complicated, but it's just the same thing as a piano. I look at Facebook as an instrument. You just need to know where middle C is at, and then you know where the octave is. You know how to play a little C chord, right? Then you learn a D chord. It's just a matter of learning it. And once you know how to do it, you can play that instrument and you can play it for the rest of your life.
Cool. Okay, thanks.
Before I go over to Denise, thanks, Tanner. Dr. Polly, I know you came on late. You've got patients, which is great. You have a busy day, which is also great. Tanner went through a whole bunch of things related to course creation. So when this gets uploaded in Slack, I just know that you're going to want to watch the whole thing. So I just want to give you a heads up. Okay. All right, Denise, you are next.
Help! No. Well, first of all, I loved Ken's question because that kind of prepared me, because I automatically was thinking, okay, stay in your zone of genius. This is not what I'll be doing, but I totally understand why, or where the benefits are for learning this, and particularly because I coach people who are in business, so I need to be able to talk some language. I love the diagrams because I'm a visual thinker, so I think that it helps a lot. But I'm just saying I'm going to need a lot of hand holding on this. Ugh.
So
Yeah,
let me speak to that for 1 second. So I actually did run my own Facebook ads, not well. I'm being very transparent, for about 3 years. And I found that, yes, I understand how to do a custom audience. I've run ads for some clients, and it's not the thing that I actually enjoy, nor do I want to be really good at it. However, I understand it enough. Like, I can have a high level conversation with Tanner about how much the ad is costing, who's the ad see, let's do a custom audience together. So Denise, it just kind of shift your thinking on that. It's not in my experience anyway, you're not going to need a whole lot of hand holding. You're going to be able to have a way to learn it. I'll ask Tanner to talk about that. And once you learn it and you understand it, it can still be outsourced if you choose to. You can do it yourself. There's little things that I'm comfortable doing myself on Facebook. For me, I prefer, we talk Zone of Genius all the time, right? I prefer just to work with my client family members to kind of handle that. However, I don't want to not know what someone is doing with my Facebook ads, right? I want to have, as the CEO of our companies, we want to understand what's going on. We don't have to necessarily be the one doing it. I think what Tanner is advocating is really smart. You need to understand, right? So I've got someone working on a website. I don't build websites. I know enough though about what's supposed to be there, what's not supposed to be there, how it's supposed to look, ease of navigation, because I do understand it, so that as the CEO of the company, I can still guide the person. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I do want to say thank you to Tanner. You presented very well. I did understand what you were saying. I just thought, like, okay, now how am I going to do this? So,
right.
But you presented really, really well. Thank you. Thank you for bringing
Yeah,
that to
thank
us.
you.
All right, so let's have Velma, and then I'm going to ask Tanner to explain if we've got some next actions. How many?
There we go. So the video ads, it kind of occurs to me that something could be repurposed for a video ad. So say, for example, there's somebody I know who does all of these really informative Facebook Lives. And, and I would imagine that sound bites could be pulled from Facebook Lives that are already done inside of a group, and those can be used and repurposed for a video rather than creating a video ad each time. Is that something that's possible?
Totally. And in fact, that's known as content stacking. So what a lot of people will do, the people that do this best in the industry are guys like Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, people that have a lot of long form content. They'll go and they'll do a keynote, right? And they'll have their team record the whole thing. Then what they'll do is they'll take that one piece of content and they'll chop it down into like 20 different bite-sized actionable chunks of value. And then they'll distribute that on social media and also as brand awareness ads, trying to get more people into their indoctrinated into their brand, into what they're teaching. So I recommend a similar thing, actually. The more content that you can have and then just chop up and splice, then the more ad content that you have, it's not necessarily something that you have to script everything out. Now, I do script out ads for Terry and she films them for me, but which is also an option. But there's also a lot of other ways that you can try to shortcut that process. For example, if you are doing a lot of long form content, video content, and presentations and Facebook Lives and things of that nature, I mean, it's yours. Chop it up, splice it, use it up as much as you possibly can. So that was a great question. Thanks for asking that.
Well, and I think too, like for example, Terry will do 30 minutes and she'll do like 8 mistakes kind of thing. you could actually almost test which mistake brings in more.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're already getting it, Velma. That's awesome.
Okay, cool.
I'll be over to Carl in a second. Stella, I just want to tell you that when you get a chance, go back and we'll put it in Slack like usual. Watch the whole thing because it truly has been incredible learning so far. Carl, I'm going to come over to you. You can unmute.
Hi, Tanner. I kind of have the Velma's question kind of got me to thinking in the reverse engineering in that would it also be possible if it's, I suppose, if it's authentic and genuine, to know what some of the points are and work those into your content so that you can then chop down content and you have already some bites that you know that are going to be useful in ads. Do you know what I mean? That you're kind
Absolutely.
of building that into, not verbatim necessarily, but that, you might be, working off of those points then.
Absolutely, of course. And, going back to the brand awareness ads, the most effective type of brand awareness ads in leading people towards an eventual webinar registration and an eventual purchase is kind of beginning with the end in mind. If you know that your product really solves and attacks certain pain points on your avatar in your ideal customers' shoes, then that's kind of some of the things that you're going to want to lace into that brand awareness content, and not directly go out and say, you have these problems, here's my product, go and buy it. Rather, you're teaching about it and in a way that's very inviting and authentic and genuine. So that is exactly what you want to do. And the most effective type of brand awareness campaigns are those exactly. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you.
Awesome. So hang on just a second. I'll just make sure nobody else has a hand raised. No one else does. So Tanner, do you want to tell them potentially what we might be able to do and help them? Because you and I talked about it as well.
Absolutely. So I've been doing this Essential Atomic Courses program for my clients and my customers now for years. This is the culmination of my years of experience in doing this and working with people like Terry. And we knew, Denise, that there were going to be people like you that need help and are confused and want to take it to the next level. And so I've actually haven't created it yet. I'm working on it. Notice that I'm in a pre-sale before I ever create it fully, but I'm putting together a really awesome program, and it's going to lay everything out for you guys completely. And we're not just going to talk about what we talked about today. It's going to be everything related to the lead magnet creation, how to build landing pages, how to actually set up the ads, how to set up your Facebook Business Manager, how to create effective brand trailers and brand awareness ads, how to run the webinar, what that atomic webinar formula is, everything that it goes into my process. So if I have your guys' permission, I'll just go ahead here and kind of share my screen and actually show you guys. I've created a special little order page for you. And I'm going to sell this program for $10,000. That's the goal. But for you guys, because you're part of Terry's ideal, clients, and you've been working with her for so long, we want to give this to you guys for $5,000 if that's something that you feel like is valuable. And my goal is at the end of going through this program, in 8 weeks, you can have your live webinar launched, you can have ads launched up and running, you can understand this entire process, and you can really take ownership of it completely. So if you want to do it yourself, you can. And if you want to hire somebody to do it for you, you also can. Now, in the spirit of full transparency, I would love that person to be me. I would love to do all of this for you, but I also don't want to do it if you don't know enough of the process. So this is really going to act as my core foundational product and program for all of my customers. And this is something that I'm going to make every one of my customers go through in the future, because then what happens is we're completely aligned, everything about the process. We can have very high level conversations. And when I say something to you like, hey, you go do your web reg VSL and make sure that you're doing, having that in line with the Atomic Courses program, I'm not having to explain and take tons of time out of my day to do it. You can go watch the video and you know what I'm talking about, and we can move much quicker together. So this is going to be the program here, and I'm going to continue to add to it in this bonus module. But module 1, we're going to talk about timelines, expectations, how to set yourself up for success. I've got a ton of supporting sheets and documents that I've created as part of this process. Terry's been through all of those. Terry, do you want to speak to those for just a second?
Yeah, and while I'm speaking of those, I just want to make some general comments that I think are really important. A lot of you on channels and in Slack have been asking me all these different questions about Facebook ads, about your landing pages, your registration pages, tracking pixels, how do you set this up, how do you set that up? And I came to Tanner and said, hey, this is not my thing, and I do not incorporate this in the program. Since you do this with me, would you be willing to give today's class here? And he did, which is phenomenal. Thank you. I appreciate you so much, Tanner. You're great at putting the presentation together. So yes, I've been through all of this. So I actually understand to 100% like what is happening in terms of Facebook and the science behind it. And you do need to understand that. You know, it's not just throw up some Facebook ad and you're going to make money. There is really an understanding of how do you pick the custom audiences? What should be in the ad? How do you know if the ad's working? How do you know how much money you're spending per ad and what results you're getting? So there's a lot of pieces that I really do believe every one of my client family members does need to understand, perhaps someone in your company understand with you. Then, you know, our goal for our client family members is really that you are able to kind of get something working. And it is that rinse, wash, and repeat. Like, hey, this worked, let's just do it again, let's just do it again, let's just do it again. We have to tweak it and we'll just keep doing it. And making the evergreen offer, right? Promising Profits webinar, it's evergreen. TL webinar is evergreen. Modern coaching method, when we perfect it, it will also be evergreen. This is not only how you scale your business, as I've been through this with Tanner, it's also how you get the time freedom that I talk about a lot. Those of you who are building courses, which is most of you in my experience, there is a lot that goes into course building. And my experience shows me that many of you lovingly have done it wrong. You've gone and built these courses, and then you come to me and go, well, you know, I built these courses, or another mentor had me build a course and no one's coming. I'm like, well, of course not. Because that's not how it works. And Tanner's doing exactly what he teaches, because he does walk his talk. He is of integrity, transparency, and authenticity. And I did the same. I mean, I was very clear with Modern Coaching that, yes, I had the entire framework. It was ready. The course wasn't ready. So those of you who got the course, you waited 2 weeks for me to start it. And how do you fulfill a course? What are the best practices? How does the course come to people? How do you get it out there? It's not just, well, now I have a course and, you know, now what? How do people access it? And then, of course, you know, consistently getting your business to grow and having the momentum that you get started. So I just wanted to just jump in with those couple of comments. Thanks, Tanner.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. So, you know, each one of these modules, I'm going to send the link. You guys can come here and check it out. I'm not going to cover everything, but really each one of these modules is designed to take you step by step through that whole process. You'll see here that we have an entire module dedicated to science of Facebook ads. And I specifically am going to walk everyone through what I'm doing with my client campaigns, how you set it up, how to keep track of all of this so that you can start doing your own ads. And then also right here, how you can take everything that you've put together from the webinar, from the ads, and then make tweaks, rinse, wash, and repeat, continue to do live launches. But then essentially, like Terry was saying, you take it evergreen. Once you've perfected this and you know your numbers and you can now make educated business decisions and not guessing, that is when you take it evergreen and you can scale your time, your freedom. And then also how to basically fulfill the course, how to put it together, best practices, different types of programs that you can create, what those would look like. Some really good tips and tricks there. I've done everything from helping Terry sell her, you know, master year-long course, to doing live launches, to doing boot camps, to doing, you know, 6-week, 8-week courses and programs. And then I have this bonus module that I'm going to continue to build up as we move forward. So basically what's included, if you were to sign up with this today, is you get lifetime access to all the modules, the bonus modules, and any updated modules I tweaked there. You get 3 30-minute one-on-one coaching calls with me, where we would actually at different point in the process track and see where you're at, see if there's anything that need to be done or changed or tweaked before we moved on to the next section. So you guys can make, you know, progress and know that you're moving along the right path. And it's an 8-week long program, and you're going to get exclusive access to all of my atomic sheets, documents, and assets. And once again, that's probably the most valuable part of this whole thing, because this is going to really help you organize everything, put the rubber to the road, and actually start to create your empire. Now, what I'm going to say about this is, it is an 8-week long program, but you get lifetime access to the modules. So what does that mean? It means that you have 8 weeks to get on those 30-minute coaching calls with me. I'm in the business of, people taking action and getting results and moving forward. Obviously, if, aside from crazy life events happening, I want to hold everyone to that 8-week timeline. It's going to be aggressive, but it is very doable. And I think that's the time that it should take people to go through the program and implement all this stuff. So if you take 6 months to go through the program, that's great. You can have access to it for lifetime, but I'm not going to be getting on calls with you after that 8-week period, if that makes sense. Just want to be completely transparent upfront with all of you guys. Yeah. And, I also request and ask that you just don't share this page with anybody, because I am wanting to sell it for $10,000. You'll notice here that I've created a special pricing for all of you guys in Terry's inner circle that are her, one-on-one awesome clients. So yeah, that's essentially it.
Let me speak to that for just a second. Well, first of all, thank you. That's like half. It's like crazy generous. So thank you for that. Second of all, I just want to make a couple things. I have this and I have been through this. And for those of you who want traffic to your webinars and want traffic to your courses, I do actually advocate that this will help you. And the second thing is, you could probably tell already, Tanner is amazing in delivering value. So you're going to get on the phone with him. And like Denise is like, oh, I need help. You will get the hand holding you need. Okay. So I wouldn't bring anybody on a call, I rarely bring anyone to you like this. And I really wanted to give you the opportunity to learn what Tanner taught today. And then if you want to go further and you want help, there is no one else that I would recommend. And I probably, prior to meeting Tanner, he knows this, I probably had 17 different people who ran Facebook ads with my company. And I lost, in one case, over $100,000, another case, $56,000, another case, $17,000. I could go on and on, but I'm making myself sick telling you. And my ads literally did not get results. Recently, we had an ad for, I think we had an ad spend that only did $50. And then we have a new member of Promising Profits that joined from that ad. So that's an $18,500 client from a $50 ad. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen for you or happen all the time. However, I recommend that you understand ads and you have someone who helps you driving traffic. So I just wanted to add that, Tanner. Sorry.
No, thanks so much, Terry. So I'll actually send the link over to Terry and Terry can shoot it out. Is that the best way to do it, Terry? Cool.
Yeah, that would be the best.
And cool. I would just also say too that I really would love to work with all of you guys. You guys are my ideal clients. You guys are my ideal prospects. And I stand by what I teach. I know that there's a million ways to skin the cat. This is what I have created and found works for me and works for all of the clients that I've worked with. And so if you learn the system, it might take a little bit more work up front, but you're going to be able to have that skill for your life. And Denise, if you don't want to do ads, if that's not your area of genius, that's okay. You'll at least be genius enough to do damage and have high level conversations. So any other questions that you guys might have for me?
Anybody else have a hand raised? I know some of you came on late, like John, Stella, I know Dr. Polly is like in and out with patients. So I'm just recommending, and those of you who are watching this after, number one, watch the entire thing if you missed any of it. Number two, I actually recommend, I'm going to watch this the second time because I want to actually take some notes on some of the slides that are in here. So I'm going to recommend that also. And then Tanner will get me the link and I will put that in Slack for anyone that is interested. And Tanner, thank you. That is, it's extremely generous. I wasn't expecting that. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Any other
Absolutely.
Any other hand raises, last minute questions? Let me do one more look around. Good job. And oh, Denise, so you just waving?
I feel a lot better now.
Glad to hear that.
That's great.
Awesome. Anybody else? Sandy, hang on. Sandy, you can unmute.
Hi, Tanner. I'm just getting started. So, I mean, you're amazing. I can tell that. That's besides the fact that Terry brought you here, it's obviously that this is in your DNA. So it's, it's part of you and you walk your talk. As I said, I'm just getting started and you're saying, yeah, that we have to connect with you and have those sessions within 8 weeks. Is that, yeah, doable to, if I'm not there yet, to start doing Facebook ads and stuff? Yeah. Is that not premature for
Absolutely,
me
it's doable.
to get into that, or I'm just going to record everything and, go back to the recordings, but yeah.
No, and I would say this is something that I say to all of my clients. Terry's heard me say this a lot. Done is the new perfect. What do I mean by that? You don't slap something together that's horrible and not great and is going to be detrimental to your brand and just get it out there. But none of you, I would argue that none of you have the problem of doing things that are low quality or giving half effort. Most people err, especially coaches and creators, err on the side of being absolute perfectionists. And so when they hear, holy cow, I'm going to go from 0 to launching a webinar and having something to sell in 8 weeks, it kind of shocks them. But that's what you need to do to kind of get the rubber to the road and start getting results. Now, you can always reiterate, make tweaks and changes. You can do 2.0, 3.0 different launches. But it's important that you get going and getting those results early on, because that's how you build momentum and you can get early revenue that then fuels the scalability and growth of your offer.
Yeah. and
Okay, but, okay.
Sandy, let me speak to that as well. Tanner, Sandy's new. She just basically today, we finalized her core unique positioning statement, which is always the bulk of work. All my client family members know that. That's the biggest bulk of work. And so I personally think it would still be good for her to learn the process and to go through the course, get familiar and get ready. So when she's ready to do the ads, it's available. That's just my thinking. All right, I see you,
Yeah.
Denise. I'm coming over. Hang on one second. You can unmute.
When do we start? I know
Well-
that, I know Terry's method. So you market it for a couple of weeks and then you start building it and all of that stuff. But so what kind of timeline are you looking at?
Yeah, so I'm looking for an August 1, timeline of launch. So if you guys were to join and sign up today, basically I would have everything, all of the modules ready to rock and roll by August 1.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I wasn't expecting that. Great. Awesome. Anybody else? All right, well, we've kept you over the hour. Thank you so much. This was like incredible value. And gang, I will do my best, since James is not back at work. We don't know when he'll be back. I will do my best to get this uploaded for you shortly in Slack. I'm not James, and it's not my area of brilliance. I think I got this. So I'll try and get it there by the end of the day. Tanner, thank you again. So appreciate the training, appreciate a 50% discount, appreciate you and all you do. Thank you so much.
Happy to do it. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you guys on the inside.
See you all Monday. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.